Hey, good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Storm Team meteorologist Griffin Hardy here with this week's edition of Weather Wednesday on CBS42.com and on CBS42 on Facebook. And for today's weather topic, I thought we'd talk a little bit more about the most powerful machine that humankind has ever built, the Saturn V rocket, 7.5 million pounds of thrust. And we're talking about that today because yesterday's date, 50 years ago, was when the Apollo 11 mission happened, when Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins all went to the moon on board the Saturn V rocket. And I thought we'd talk a little bit more about how weather forecasts have really played a role in the past when it comes to rocket launches, because weather is the most common reason for a rocket launch to be scrubbed, in other words, postponed. And 30% of all of those weather delays are related to lightning, because they've had two incidents in the past, NASA has, involving lightning. The first one of which happened just after the Apollo 11 mission, the Apollo 12 mission, November 14th, 1969. The Saturn V rocket was struck not once, but twice on the way up. And they weren't really sure what was going on. On the way up, a lot of the electronics on board briefly short-circuited, and they didn't really understand that lightning had struck the outside of the rocket because they couldn't see outside of the rocket because there weren't any windows. Although the rocket itself was not damaged. Fortunately, the rocket maintained its structure and was successful on the mission on taking men to the moon. And the second incident involving lightning was the Atlas-Centaur incident. Happened on March 26th, 1987. This was an unmanned rocket carrying a Navy satellite on board, and 49 seconds after launch, it was also struck by lightning, and that same bolt came down and actually struck the pad on which the rocket was launched. It exploded immediately. All cargo on board was lost, and the mission, unfortunately, was a failure. So NASA really has to take this seriously when it comes to rocket launches. So here's the basic setup. You've got charge separation within the clouds, within any storm cloud that's nearby from the launch pad. You've got negative strikes in the bottom of the cloud from liquid water and positive charges at the top of the cloud where the ice is located because it's colder higher up in the clouds, and then positive charges closest to the ground. So you have a big charge separation, which is what you need for lightning to form. And when the rocket launches, it basically acts as a giant lightning rod. You've got this big metal rocket with the ionized exhaust coming out of it. It shortens the distance between those charges, and naturally, you have basically a lightning rod that forms. And one main thing that NASA has to look for is anvil clouds. These are clouds that have the ice spreading out on top of it from the storms that's forming beneath it. And when that happens, you typically have positive strikes that originate from the top of the cloud, the anvil, and these are generally the strongest lightning strikes that come from the anvil cloud, the top of the cloud. There's a rule that NASA has that you cannot have any anvil clouds within 10 nautical miles of the launch pad because of the shortened distance that rocket creates for the charges to connect. And if there is, within 10 nautical miles, if there's forecasted to be any anvil clouds within 10 nautical miles of the pad, the launch is postponed. And unfortunately, it's scrubbed, and they have to wait until a later date. So it can become very, very particular when it comes to the forecast, when it comes to rocket launches. So make sure you stay informed every Weather Wednesday on CBS42.com on Facebook, and we will dive into more weather topics in the future.